Okie dokie. Well, we are going to get underway with Just Local, our new podcast series. And today we've got a very special guest with us. We have Simon Lancaster. Simon's got a lot of strings to his bow. A lot of people might know him from Worcester City Football Club. They may know him from his business, SJL Insurance, or it may be from the foundation he set up called SJL Foundation. So we've got a lot to talk about today, Simon. Thank you for coming on.
No problem.
We've had a little natter off screen just to kind of run through some of the questions and stuff. No, we're just going to have a little chat today about kind of your years in Worcester. You've always been in Worcester, as you said earlier today. I just really want to start off with this journey now with the football, if that's okay. So my research led me to believe that back in October 22, you joined the board. And then I think a year later, you became the owner of the club.
Yeah, it's actually a bit of a longer story than that. So I've got 4 boys, and one of them started playing football about 10 years ago, and I was asked to coach his football team. Well, as with most things, they're looking for a coach. One of the dads gets dragged into it, so I got dragged into it. So I was coaching in the youth section with Worcester City from under 7. He's under 16 now, and I've taken that team right the way through the last 10 years. So I was involved with the youth section, and then I think because I was involved with the youth section and obviously been involved in business, they asked me to join the main football club board, which I did, you're right, in 2022. Essentially, they were about to run out of money and go bust, cut another long story short. So I then put an offer forward to buy the club, which was successful. So it escalated from being asked to coach a kids' football team to ending up being a majority share of the full club, which was never the plan, but these things do escalate. So we put that forward to the Supporters Trust, because it was owned by the Supporters Trust before, and they voted on it in May of last year. So then we had some legals to go through, so it completed last year.
Yeah, fantastic.
Been doing it for, well, legally a year, but we started about 6 months before that, so we're running it for about 18 months really.
Got you. And it was a successful first season, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I mean, I said when I stood up in front of the Supporters Trust last May, it was on a downward spiral, and we needed to stop that and get it going the other way, which we did. We gave Chris, the manager, a good playing budget, but like I always say, playing budget only gets you so far at any level. You've got to manage it well, you've got to recruit well, you've got to coach well, which, to be fair, him and his team have done brilliantly. And had a fantastic first season last year, won our first league for 45 years, got a promotion, won a cup, had a really good Vars run. We're one penalty kick away from Wembley, which was disappointing to choose my words, but
Yep.
So we had a really good first season, and obviously that got engagement from local business and fans and stuff, which was good. And then brought there was already some good people in the club, to be fair. We kept the board as was. We added to it with Rob and Carl from SJL and some other good people. And we've got a good team of people now, and we're reaching out across the 4 main areas, which is the first team, obviously trying to keep that successful. The youth, which we've grown to 27 boys and girls teams now, and we've got that doing really well. Commercially, we've got lots of sponsors like yourself and others, local companies getting involved, trying to build up that Worcester business network and doing lots of stuff on that. And then obviously the facilities. So we have made really good and rapid progress in 18 months. But it still feels like it's just the start, really. It's still
good.
Quite a long way to go.
That's great to hear. You mentioned Chris. So Chris Corner's been with the club for 2 years as manager, is that right?
Yes, yesterday I
thought it was, yeah. I don't know when this is going out, but I wrote that down as I saw that yesterday on socials, yeah. He did. And so our journeys have sort of followed a similar path, really. I think we recruited him 2 weeks after I got on the board. Right.
But before the takeover. And yeah, he's done a great job, to be fair. We were fighting relegation in step 5 of football's non-league pyramid. We're now third in step 4. So yeah, it's been a really good 2 years. But again, like he'll say, I'm sure it's about keeping it going, really. You can't, the minute you sit around patting yourself on the back, you start going backwards.
Of course you do.
So
of course you do.
Absolutely keep driving it forward, really.
It feels like when I watch some of the post-match interviews, I'm sure he is very happy, and he tells the lads when he is, but it seems like he's never completely happy with what's gone on. He's always looking for something.
I think that's fair, and I think, to be honest, and you'll know this, I think anybody in any business or sport, who's successful have got that sort of personality trait, haven't they?
Yeah.
I think, Sir Alex Ferguson famously, as soon as they won a league, the lads are celebrating in the change room, and he was like, well, what are you doing? We've got a plan for next year. We've got the league to win, sort of thing. And that's business and sport, isn't it? So yeah, I think absolutely he's always, I know he's always trying to take it forward, which is good. But that fits our ambitions. We're not looking forward. The club had fallen low.
Yeah.
And we're looking to to progress it and build it back. So
where do you think it might have been if it wasn't for yourself stepping in? What was the outcome that they were probably facing?
Well, it was about to go bust.
Was it?
Literally, yeah. So, it would have, been sort of basically.
And they've been at different grounds, hadn't they? After they'd left St George's Lane, they'd been over
so
Stourport.
Obviously, that happened way before I came in when they lost St George's Lane, and then they sort of out at Kidderminster and Bromsgrove, which was never great. But the Supporters Trust did a brilliant job of bringing us back to Worcester. Yeah. To be fair, and it's great to be back in Worcester, but we need our own home to be sustainable, really. So we're working on that, because to be sustainable as a club, that's the game changer, really, getting our own home that we own. It's great to be back in Worcester, but that's what we're working towards, and that's what we're working on. But obviously, that's a longer term project. And
well, like you said, getting the turn to kind of, I wouldn't say rot, but to stop what was happening, and get there a bit more belief. I've been to a couple of games this season. I went to games last season. The atmosphere around that ground is really good. It's really nice, I must say. When I've been invited and I've been as a sponsor, I've been in hospitality upstairs, but I've looked down and you've been downstairs pitch side, and you've been down there with your lads, and you've not been up with the people that have been sponsoring. You've actually been as a supporter and as a fan, really. You've been downstairs, which is quite endearing. I saw you a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't get to say hello to you, but I could see you were just down there with your mates, watching the football, which is fab. And I guess the supporters probably take a lot from that as well. Yeah,
I think so. I mean, I do try and pop up to corporate and say thanks to the sponsors, because they do a great job. But Rob and Carl sort of manage that and oversee that. And I like to be down with my boys, enjoying the game, but I try and get around and chat to as many supporters as I can, and you get a good feel for, the wants and needs and desires by doing that. So I know I enjoy sort of being down in England with supporters.
So what is that plan then? So if you say that obviously the grand aim is to have your own stadium or your own ground that's yours, is there anything you can kind of share on the podcast? Doesn't have to be exclusive. Is there anything you can kind of share that's not in common knowledge at the moment? Or
there's not, I'm afraid. I know you'd love to have a big exclusive on that, but
that'd be the clickbait to get everyone to watch it.
It would, yeah. No, we've got the Hinlip consultation, which is out there. So we had the public consultation for that in May, I think, by memory. But we're working with the developer and the council to go through other sort of checks and consultations and things like that. So it is bubbling along, but it's not sort of
nothing to guarantee so far.
Nothing to make a big announcement on yet. No,
but for those that don't know about the consultation that was taking place, what is the plan? What's the loose plan at the moment for that space?
So there's it'd be a sports complex. The main feature of which will be Worcester City Football Club. But of course, what we're looking to do is get our youth in there as well. So at the moment, we've got, like I said earlier, 27 youth teams with, in a football sense, they're figuratively homeless. We're sort of hiring pitches for them to train all around Worcestershire, out at Pershore, and we have got the new facility at Pershaw, which is great, but doesn't fulfil all the requirements. So we're out at Dyson's and all sorts of places. So we need somewhere, a hub where the youth can play and train and get them involved. And so it'd be fantastic for Worcester City, but also there's a cricket pitch there and a community centre there and a few different things, and then obviously some housing provisions, some retirement provisions. So lots of things going on there. But the plans are online, and we've had the public consultation, so that's all out there. So we're just progressing that, but also looking at the shorter term options and solutions as well.
Yeah, fantastic. You got a game this weekend, but when this podcast goes out, it won't necessarily be this weekend. You got home tie this weekend, though, as I understand it.
Hopefully, we'll have won that by the time
that's it. Yeah, it's in the past. We've done that one. That's another win. But what's the plans for obviously going up a league's massive 45 years club history to get up there? You had top goal scorers. I think you have two or something like that. I think they're almost like fighting for the same record. But now you are where you are. What's the plan for this year? What would everyone be happy with? What would Chris be happy with this year?
Well, I think the plan was last year to win the league. We try not to go too public with objectives, because they can quite easily bite in the backside, can't they? So but the plan was to win the league. But then, of course, the higher you go up any pyramid, it gets tougher and tougher and tougher. And this is a tough step up. There's no doubt about it. And I think the first few games we actually found it really tough. The step up in level, but. We're on a pretty decent run of form now, sort of, I think 6 wins in 7, something like that. So it feels like the coaching and players are sort of getting used to the level, if that makes sense. We've made a few good signings. We didn't, to be fair to Chris, I say this is Chris's area completely, but he didn't completely change the squad. He just made a few little changes, which I think was the right way to go.
Yeah.
When you win a league with 100 odd points, you can't just sort of change a lot. So it was more subtle, but he brought in some good additions. And we're on a good run of form. It feels like we're competing well now in games, and we're third as we speak. But there are teams around us with games in hand, so it's quite tight. But I think our target, and Chris is on the record of saying this, is probably the playoffs this year, which is sort of 2 to 5. So 1 goes up and 2 to 5 is a playoff. So I think if we can get in around the playoffs in our first season in there, that would be a good result, to be fair.
Amazing. Is there a bit more travelling this season, or is it still kind of similar?
It's not too bad actually, because we flipped. Worcester is right on the geographical line. You can either be South or Midlands.
Yep. And
we were South last year, and had we stayed South, it would have been Devon and Cornwall and quite a lot of travel. But we actually flipped to the Midlands.
Right.
So it's more sort of Warsaw, Leicestershire, Birmingham. So it's not too bad, to be fair.
No.
It's okay.
Cool. Well, long may it continue, and I'm sure we'll touch upon more of the exploits of the football team. But it's really, really positive to see. And obviously, in the absence of rugby in the area at the moment as well, it's been a real success, I think, to see a sport like that kind of take stage.
You took the words out of my mouth, really. I think with what happened with the rugby and the basketball and different things, there was a bit of a void, and with what had happened to the football club on that downward spiral, it feels like the last couple of years, like you said, the feel-good factor's back. People are enjoying it. People just stop you in the ground, but also on the street, to be fair. Worcester, you're walking around, it's brilliant, the football, we're loving it, we're coming in. And so that feel-good factor for the whole city, really, is brilliant. So, it's our job, really, to keep that going, keep surfing the crest of that wave, and keep that feel-good factor. Because I said, when I took it over, we needed to bring that feel-good factor back.
Yeah.
And it feels like we've done that, but obviously that only lasts so long if you don't keep it going.
Yeah.
But I think it's also about, managing expectations. Well, I mean, Worcester's a huge city. When you think of sporting, there's teams in the Premier League with less population than Worcester in a football sense. So, some of the teams that we were playing against last year were tiny little villages and hamlets, really. So the potential is huge. But it's got to be done sort of incrementally and sustainably. I think sometimes people can get a bit carried away with, I've been in the Premier League in 5 years. It's like, well...
yeah, that Hindlip better be a big old site.
No, let's just calm it down. It's more about, sustainable, incremental progress, I think.
Well, having 27 youth teams, that's got to give you a real good kind of, hopefully, breeding ground.
I would say this because I'm involved in the youth, and I've got young sons involved in the youth, but I think the youth is so important to any football club. From a football sense, progressing players through the pathway, and we've done a lot of work on that pathway. There was a bit of a void before between sort of 16 and the first team, where you lost the good players.
Yeah.
But now it feels like we've got a good 18s, a good development team with reserves, and that pathway is there, which is good. But that's only for the elite few, We've got 400 kids in the youth section, and I always say that they're the future fans, they're the future sponsors, they're the future volunteers. We've got a brilliant community of volunteers that help us do what we do at the club. We couldn't do what we do without the volunteers, really. So they're the future volunteers, and so getting them embedded in the club is vital, I think. And not just our youth players, but wider. So we're just launching a community outreach program. Going into primary schools. We started last week with Norfolk Manor, where we go and put football sessions on for them.
Fab.
And the club used to do this years ago, but like with a lot of things, it dropped off. And so we're bringing that back. And again, it's about helping the school provide good football sessions, because we're using, Matt Talley, who's a really good local coach.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
So, Norfolk Manor actually approached us because they didn't have any teachers that had the skills to deliver football coaching, so we're delivering that, which is good for them and good for the kids, but also again for the club. It's about community outreach, engaging with the kids, their parents, trying to get them along to games, and you find when they do come to a game, they enjoy it. They come back again and they tell their mates and all that sort of stuff. So it's really about getting out there and connecting with the community, and some of their parents might have businesses, and it's about getting a business involved. Like I said, we're really trying to build up that local business network in Worcester as well, and just linking it all. But the only way you can do that is by getting out there.
I think having been to a few games as well, the atmosphere, if the crowd's got 500, 600, 900, that's a lot of people in one place. And so the kids, you can see they're really enjoying it when they kind of come on walking the players on, and they've done the tunnels and stuff like that. And I've seen obviously a few different teams be invited to do that. And it must, for those guys, it's not Baggies ground, it's not Man United, but actually it kind of, for them, it'll feel
it's
just
brilliant.
at that level.
Yeah, I mean, Bosco from the Supporters Trust does a great job with the Match Day community outreach programme, where he has birthday parties and mascots, like you say, local grassroots clubs, and they come in, they walk out with the team, and they go on the pitch, do some football, and then they go and get autographed off the players in a bar after and stuff. And they have a brilliant day, to be fair. They all love it. And again, it's just that community engagement, that community outreach, and the kids, trying to get the kids along. Like we had the Worcester City Youth Day at Clains in September, and we had like 950 that day. There was loads of kids there, and it's just brilliant. And I think everyone loves seeing the kids involved in the excitement, and that's one of the good things that I've enjoyed, to be fair, seeing the youth section grow.
See that grow.
Thrive. And the girls, we didn't have any girls teams up until a couple of years ago. And we're up to 7 or 8 girls teams now, so girls football is exploding.
That's on a great trajectory, isn't it? Yeah.
So we really got a great opportunity to build that and get the girls involved in the football club. We've got it's our girls' day this Saturday, actually, where we've got all the girls teams there and photos on the pitch and all that sort of stuff, which they love. And it's great for the club, again, just to get it all linked up and stuff. So
it's we won't talk finances, but it's hard to make a club sustainable, isn't it? I suppose when you've got things like this going, so must take a bit of commitment from yourself as well. This is obviously a passion and a hobby, but also you must be. Yeah, it is.
I mean, the club has lost money forever, basically, and obviously, whilst we don't own our own home, that is still the case. So I'm having to put money in, but the plan is, because I don't think any organisation, particularly a football club, should be sort of reliant on one individual putting cash in, because when that stops.
And unfortunately
it stops. And
rugby clubs, everyone's seen it.
Rugby, and we've seen it in our league this year with Walsall Wood. It was basically a guy bankrolling it, and when he stopped, they no longer exist, sort of thing. Yeah. So I think my job is, obviously, to keep the club sort of solvent, if you like, for the first few years. But the plan is to make it sustainable, with or without my involvement, which is what it needs. And all of these things, the business engagement, the kids, the youth, the community engagement, improving the product. I hate using the word product when we talk about football, because it's a sport and it's a passion and people love it. But that is essentially the product of the club. Keeping that good, keeping attendances high, ultimately getting our own home. If I can leave whenever that might be, and the thing is, A, progressed, but B, sustainable, then that's job done.
Cool. Good legacy. Yeah. So you run a good business as well. Obviously, to be able to bankroll a football club, you've got a good business. I've known it for many, many years. We've been trading for 15 years, and SJL Insurance has been trading for 23. So you're a little bit older than me. I looked up to you as an entrepreneur, and I was trying to kind of get myself and cut my teeth in the business. I knew you, I knew your wife as well back then. No sauce well. But tell me about SJL Insurance, because I assume it started off with a little dream from yourself.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It does feel like our paths have been on a similar trajectory for sort of 15 years. But yeah, I'd been going a couple of years before that. So no, I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I left college. We decided to get an apprenticeship because I just wanted to work and earn. They could have sent me anywhere. They just happened to send me to an insurance broker over in Malvern. So I worked there, sort of making coffee, issuing cover notes, going out and taking a post and doing all the stuff that an office junior used to do 30 years ago, whenever it was. And just sort of built up from there, really, and worked at various local insurance brokers until I was about 23. And then I got made redundant and I was still living at home with mum and dad in Fernal Heath, always lived in Worcester. And literally just pondering what to do next, really. The recruitment consultant were working on different things for me, but when you're looking at jobs, they're not really inspiring you too much. Yeah. And I literally had that much spoke about light bulb moment in the garden, just thought, you know what, I'm just going to do this myself. And the idea initially was to build up a wholesale broker. So I won't bore you with the details, but as with anything, you've got lots of insurance brokers. The bigger ones get a better deal off the insurance company than the smaller ones. So I thought we can group together the smaller ones, get the deal off the insurance companies and give them the same sort of deals that the bigger guys get through me, then that could work. And wholesale, although it's not a unique concept, it wasn't very big in insurance at that time. Right. So I decided to set up a wholesale insurance broker. And literally just ran in, and I'm sure you had the same, sort of when that penny drops, ran in full of excitement, right, give me a pen, give me a paper, start scribbling down, and I was away, sort of thing. Yeah. So I don't know if I'd have done that I was lucky in that I was living at home, didn't have overheads, mortgage, family, all that sort of stuff. I think had I been made redundant in later life with commitments, I'm not sure it would have been so easy. But actually, the time of life, just fortuitously for me, worked out quite well. And my mum and dad, who were always very supportive, to be fair to them, she was like, "Oh, you can do it if it doesn't work out." I was like, "Well, it doesn't matter, does it? Just give it a go. If it works, great. If it doesn't, I'll get a job," sort of thing. So it felt like a bit of a free hit, really.
Yeah.
But I'd never run a business or anything like that, probably similar to you. So it was a bit daunting. But I think when you're 23, you just think you could do anything, don't you? You just have absolutely no fear.
Yeah.
So I went to the Chamber of Commerce and got a business startup grant for like 500 quid, which got me a computer and a desk, and I was away. And to be fair, they also gave me I think they gave me like a week's crash course in business, how to do a bit of bookkeeping, tax return, that sort of thing. And then I was away. And I just remember it was just really exciting, really. You just feel like you can go and conquer the world, don't you? And it was just amazing. So, sent some mail shots out to insurers, because it was old paper mail shots back then. It wasn't, email wasn't really a thing, to be fair, back then. And then you're just hoping that the phone rings a couple of days later. I sent it second class, couldn't afford first class. So a couple of days later, you're just thinking...
Good things come to those who wait.
Yeah, please God, let the phone ring. Unfortunately, it did. And a couple gave me a scheme and a product and bought into what I was doing.
Yeah.
So once I had that, I was able to go out and start talking to small brokers and saying, like, we've got these products, can you come and use us? And fortunately, they did. I remember it took probably 6 to 9 months through that setup stage to actually get my first check in. I was going to frame it and put it on the wall, but I needed the cash and put it in a bank, so I had to bank.
You could scan it now and stick it on the wall. Yeah,
in this day and age, I'd have scanned it. Yeah, but I couldn't keep it for nostalgia, so I had to get it banked. So, and then it just went from there. Cut a long story short, it started doing quite well, and probably similar to your journey, really, in that I took it as far as I could by myself for 3 years.
Literally on your own for 3 years?
On my own for 3 years.
Really? And did you have, I was going to interrupt you, I was enjoying listening though, did you have like a physical location at this point, or was you able to like work with...
I was working at my mum and dad's spare bedroom.
Yeah.
I was out on the road quite a lot, driving around the country, visiting brokers and stuff like that, and then I'd say, send us a quote and the team will do it back in the office. There was no team back in the office. I'd drive back from Kent and do it at 10 o'clock that night.
Classic,
sort of you just say what you need to say to get it done. I didn't really want to give the image that I was a 23-year-old kid working out on my mum and dad's spare bedroom, really. So
keep the illusion.
Yeah, did what we had to do. But yeah, I mean, I was literally working through the week, 6 a.m. to sort of midnight, really, and sort of took it as far as I could for 3 years, and I'd moved out my mum and dad's house, still had my own flat in Blankets then, and I was earning a decent wage for a 26-year-old, but I knew that I couldn't take it any further on my own physically, and I knew that to grow I had to sort of recruit a couple of people, but then obviously that impacts your profit. So
of course it does, yeah.
A bit of a stick or twist moment, I guess, but I recruited Rob at that point and another girl.
So he is employee number one?
He was employee number one, yeah. And he's still there, 23 years.
And his role now?
20 years later. So he came in 3 years after I started, so 20 years. He's MD now. Yeah. So he was a good hire, to be fair. But they came and worked out of the spare bedroom in my flat. I still didn't take the plunge of getting an office at that point.
No,
so,
okay.
A bit strange, because they were quite young at the time, Rob and Emma, but their parents probably found it quite strange. They're going to go and work in some guy's spare bedroom in his flat. Sort of
you wouldn't do it nowadays, would you?
No, you wouldn't do it now. Times are very different. 20 years ago. So I had them in the spare bedroom, and sometimes I'd finish and go and watch the telly of an evening, and he'd still be working in the spare bedroom.
Grafter as well. Yeah, good lad.
So yeah, it was. But so I suppose you take a step back, but then when that succeeds, then it's worked out well. And then of course you reach another point where you hit the same point again.
Yeah.
So they were
ceiling, you got to go again.
And then so we stepped back and brought Adrian in, who I think you might know as well, who also still works for me. So the first few hires were all still there, which is, I think, a good sign. And then we got an office at that point in Lowesmore. So I thought it's a bit of a stretch to have sort of 4 or 5 people in the spare bedroom.
Neighbours, I think, is a bit weird.
I delayed the expense as long as I could, but we got an office at that point. And then through the next 20 years, it continued like that, really. So you sort of... We've grown organically. We've not acquired anyone, or because I didn't really want to borrow big amounts of money off the bank. I think organically takes longer, but it's hopefully built on stronger foundations.
Yeah.
So sort of every time we've succeeded a bit, then we recruit another couple, and we've just sort of grown it like that, really.
So at what point did the model change? Because obviously you were wholesaler, getting all the good products for smaller businesses, but now, as I understand, you are obviously to consumer now, so consumers get in touch with you for
Yeah,
all of the insurance
both.
needs.
So we still do wholesale.
Okay.
But I mean, wholesale gives us great volume, but we sort of split the commission with the broker, I suppose. So it waters it down a bit. Sort of the direct stuff gives a better margin. So I think about probably 10 years into the journey, we launched our direct arm about 15 years ago. And now we run the two together, and they're both really good. We've still got hundreds of brokers using us on the wholesale side, but on the direct side, we would call it, we've national and even international, because we became a Lloyd's broker about 8 years ago. So we do some stuff abroad as well. So we're sort of quite national on the direct stuff, and we run the two together. We're up to about 86 staff now, mainly headquartered. Well, we are headquartered in Worcester. Most of them are in Worcester in the old K's building, but we've got a bit of a presence in London and Bristol, and also, of course, a lot home workers now.
Yeah,
you can
hybrid, and you can
pretty much hire people anywhere, can't you? And it doesn't matter too much. So we've got people sort of hybrid working around the country and things like that.
That's fab. I mean, obviously, Worcester City aside, that's a big employer then locally as well. That's putting a lot of bread on the table for a lot of people.
And I remember when I got that grant from the council, I sort of said, "Why do you do this?" And they're like, "Well, if you succeed, you will employ local people, you'll pay local taxes, you'll bring people into the area, you'll bring visitors, you'll stop in local B&Bs, and your staff will buy sandwiches at local sandwich shops, etc., etc., etc." And now you see that, and you think, actually, that was a really good 500 quid spend by the council, because we got staff queuing at every sandwich shop down the Tide, and now every lunchtime we've got people visiting us from London, stopping at Worcester B&Bs.
You said you got the permit, you got paying permit parking in Worcester.
Permit parking, the council, absolutely. So it does help the local economy when it
without a doubt
succeeds.
I was nodding away as you're going through it, because I remember my first days, and I was back living with my parents, and again I got that little business loan just to get me off and spinning, and it was a little bit of advice as well to how to do it. But I mean, going forward, it's definitely a great little start. So if there's anyone out there looking to kind of get into business and they want to maybe pick Simon's brains or my brains, you got any kind of questions, I'm sure you can drop us a message and we'll try and help out. But there is never really a right time to start, is there? But you kind of had a redundancy there that kind of made you kind of go, right, do I want to go and work for someone else? Not really.
Yeah, it kind of gave me the prompt, really. And as I said, the timing was decent. But it's always, right, there's no right time. It's always a challenge, for lots of different reasons. And you do have to go a period of time without money, and you do have to put in long hours and stuff like that. And
that's when you really find out who your friends are as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
They have to spot you a beer or two. You can't.
I did borrow a few quid off a few of my mates on nights out, and I got quite good at hustling at pool. We used to play pool for money and stuff like that.
Good.
Try and win, so that would keep me out for a couple of hours for the rest of the night.
Fantastic.
But I was only 23, to be fair.
There's a lot of similarities. We haven't really kind of spoken any great length, so I'm learning quite a bit as I'm sitting here alongside you. But my journey started at 25 years old, so on my own, having worked for another company for 5 years. It's like, it's definitely a good thing that we've both done at some point in our life. And
and you've been going for 15 years.
15 years, yeah. So what's your plans for the future with SJL? Is there any kind of more growth plans, or is there any certain other areas that you're trying to get into? What's the forward thoughts?
More growth, more organic growth. So I'm 46 now, so some people describe me as old, but it still feels quite young.
Still young, yeah.
Just more years of growth, really, hopefully, and touch wood, and organically, and just trying to grow it across. I mean, the good thing about insurance is there's so many. We predominantly do business insurance, and so any type of business needs insurance. So it's not like we're sort of pigeonholed into one little sector. We can, we're across leisure, we're across property, we're across, manufacturing, professional trade, so everything. So there's still a lot to go at.
Yeah.
It's not like we've reached anywhere near a ceiling of what we can do product-wise, customer-wise. So we're really all about service. I'm sure you're the same in your business, really. There's similarities. I think the first thing we have to look after is our staff, because they're our most important element. And I think I've always thought, if you look after them, train them, give them the tools, then they will deliver a good service to your clients, which is your second most important thing. And if you're servicing your clients really well, then you can grow and expand. So it's quite a simple philosophy, but obviously it's easier said than done, of course, as you'll know. You've got to go out and do it, haven't you?
But what do you find? What do you find takes up your days now, though? Because obviously you've got probably a senior management team in there. You've got a managing director in Rob, and you've obviously got some great staff. What do you find your important bit is? And this isn't to say there isn't anything that is really but I kind of feel like in my business I'm in the same place now, where you built the team to really kind of work without you, and you do feel a little bit redundant yourself. Like you kind of feel like it's not you making the phone ring anymore. It's the team doing it themselves. So where are you now in your journey with the company?
I think you have to do that to grow. You know, I think it's difficult for anybody who starts a business to actually delegate and step back. And I did find it tough at the start. You know, you sort of find double checking, but actually you've got to step back and let them. You know, you've got to give them a framework and environment and support, but you've got to let them do what they need to do. And I think as we've grown, I've continued that philosophy with management. So we've got team leaders and we've got the senior management who are all brilliant, and Rob and Carl and Kate have been there for years. And you've got to sort of set them a strategic objective, but then almost let them do it and just be there to advise. And sort of like, I once read it sort of described as being a grandparent. You know, you sort of step back and let them be the parent, but just be there to sort of advise and help and just get involved in strategy. I'm still at the office 3 days a week. I work from home for 2, and so we work quite closely. I'm still with Rob and Carl all the time. We're just chatting all the time, bouncing ideas off each other, and so more sort of strategic, you know, guiding, helping, that sort of stuff. You know, getting involved in meetings and different things, and there's still actually lots of the day job stuff that you do get pulled into. But yeah, I think really it's strategy and it's helping. You know, and I think one thing I learned quite early on is, you know, you can't do everything if you want to grow. You know, Richard Branson owns an airline, but he doesn't know how to fly the plane or service the plane or sell the tickets or anything like that. You've just got to get good people in who can do that and sort of, you know, just help from afar sort of thing. So
definitely. Do you do anything like self-development? Is there anything, you know, you're a fit guy, I'm sure you do your own kind of personal fitness and all that kind of stuff. Is there anything, do you read books? Do you listen to podcasts? Is there anything out there that you kind of...
I do. I mean, obviously I've got the business in the football club and still coaching 2. My younger son has got involved as well, so I'm still coaching 2 kids' football teams. So pretty busy, to be fair, but I do I do exercise every day. So I either go to a trainer, do some weights or run. So I do try and keep fit every day. I think that's important. But yeah, if I do get some downtime, I like books and you know, I like podcasts, to be fair, quite interesting. So yeah, I find any sort of all of the entrepreneurs, you read their books, you do find yourself learning stuff, don't you?
Definitely.
So I'm big into, and the same with podcasts. You know, any podcast of somebody that's, any life is interesting, isn't it? Doesn't matter what field or what they've done. I think just listening to people talk through their stories is really interesting.
But when they've been there and done it, you can. And there's a lot of life lessons from those people that have been and done it before. So that's why, you know, having you as a guest on here, there'll be someone who's probably thinking they could have just been made redundant themselves. They could be thinking, right, how am I going to do it? I've spent 15 years doing the same job, and now I've got an opportunity to do it for myself. Where am I going to start? And like you say, cut your cloth, go back to basics. Be ready to make not much money for the first year or so, but the gains can be there. And I'd like to talk about SJL Foundation. Is called the SJL Foundation? I think we put it forward as one of our community funds, places that we'd like people to donate money to. But tell us about the SJL Foundation for people that are watching or listening to this. What is the SJL Foundation? Why was it set up? And what's it there to support?
Yeah, thanks. So I started it 4 years ago. We launched it in the House of Commons, and the idea of it was essentially to tap into our network of staff and customers and trade partners, etc., and to raise money for good causes. And we do a lot of fundraising. We have an annual ball, which time we sit here is in about 2 weeks' time at the Bank House. That's our main annual fundraiser. But we also, you know, clients have the chance to donate when they buy policies, which lots of them do, and we do lots of other fundraising. So we raise money, and essentially we distribute it 2 ways at the moment. We give our main beneficiaries Acorns, local children's hospice, who are fantastic. We've been lucky enough to tour there and have a look around there and get to know the people there, and they do some incredible work in really difficult circumstances. And like everyone and everything, they're short of funds, so every little helps. So this ball that we're about to do, Acorns are the sole beneficiary of that, and a brilliant local cause. So a lot of it goes to that. But also, interestingly, going on from what you were just saying, is we issue business startup grants to people who find themselves in the same situation I was in 23 years ago.
Wow, really?
So people who want to start a business but need a bit of help, we help them with a business startup grant, but also a program of mentoring.
Wow.
So we give them some mentoring, and we've helped, you know, a number of businesses get started, and sort of the grant is that we give them is nice, but I think it's more about the help and support and stuff like that. So So we do give business startup grants. But the good thing is, because it's a foundation, we can donate to anything, and we can sort of, we can change recipients of things. So,
is it localised? Obviously, Acorns. Yeah, are you trying to do it within Worcestershire or Worcester, or are you kind of?
Well, I mean, not necessarily, but obviously just by the way it's worked out, most of them have been local. Yeah, a lot of local guys, guy from Droitwich set up a clothing brand, and some various local people. We've done a few bits further afield, but most of it's been Worcester. Yeah, which is nice, because you're giving back to the community that you started in.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
But it all links quite well. The football, the business, the foundation. There's a lot of crossover with businesses that we work with and people that we work with. There's lots of crossover there. A lot of which is Worcester, so it's nice. Yeah, and it's the same sort of companies that support the foundation, support the football club, and
it does tend to come back to connections, doesn't it? And there's some very good people out there. You just kind of need to get yourself out in front of them sometimes. And when you've been in business for as long as you have, you've probably you've cut through some of the noise, and who's always going to be there to support a company. And as an entrepreneur, you can talk to someone, you can give them a bit of advice that 5 minutes chat with you would make a massive difference for their plans going forward. So it's sometimes just as simple as that.
Yeah, literally they'll pick up the phone and say, I think we need to hire, have you got any advice, how are apprentices, do apprenticeships work, that sort of stuff. And, they might not have ever been involved in that. So you can sort of point them into the right direction of people who provide apprenticeships programs, and give them a bit of advice about how they work and what government support you can get and different things like that, which is, invaluable, really.
Yeah, and in the wake of things like autumn statements, where you see everything in the press saying national insurance, now you have to contribute on all these staff. Yeah. Obviously, the cost's gone up for us as employers, but actually sometimes people just need a sanity check that it's not the worst thing in the world. Like, the things will keep turning. You're still planning on growing. We're still planning on continuing with our growth plans as well. So sometimes they can take comfort from people who are actually out there in the reeds doing it, and realise it's not.
I think so. And any business, it's not all going to be. No, it's not all going to be plain sailing. Otherwise, everybody would be doing it, wouldn't they? You've got to understand that sometimes it's a step back and two forward. But I think as long as you're taking more forward than back, then you're doing well. Yeah. But you've got to understand that there will be some steps back as well. And it's just part of the journey.
Yeah,
it's the same with the football club as well. You're not going to win every game, and you're not going to nail every sponsorship and have a great attendance every week. There'll be laws, but you don't
fail. You just learn. I think that's one of the statements that's out there. And also, you were talking earlier on about the key hires that you've made. Obviously, when you were first setting up, and they're still with you. There's a quote. I don't know the quote specifically word for word, but like Steve Jobs said that each hire was a real large percentage of your staff costs. So your first hire, when you were one person, you employed Rob. You're 50-50, then you've got 50% of your business has just been passed to someone else who's going to have experience. You get your third, and you've got 33% each. And as you kind of grow it, obviously the percentage might drop. But really, those first few hires are important, and you've obviously hired really well, and you've got some good staff there, because to stand the test of time and this length of time.
I think that is absolutely correct. But hiring and retaining are the most important bit of any sort of service-focused businesses, I think. And we've certainly fallen into that category. And if you can hire good people and keep good people and treat good people well, then that will just cascade down through everything. There's no exact science, I'm sure we've all hired people that haven't worked out and stuff. But even then, when it doesn't work out, I always shake hands, wish them well, and I think that's the way to go, isn't it? And I'm still friends with people that have worked at SJL and it's not worked out. I try not to take anything in business too personally, because I think you'd make yourself ill if you did that. You've just got to, you've got to strip that out of it and just,
Very true, very true. We were talking earlier because I think you might have your own podcast coming out in the future. So obviously we'll give that a little plug now, and obviously I'll be happy to come on if I ever get invited. But you will. But you're talking about your blueprint. So do you have? We actually have something in the business called the EOS. It's called our blueprint, and it's got our vision, our values, and all those bits and pieces. Do you, as SJL, do you have something like a document that's somewhere that people follow? Is it?
We do. You're not going to ask me to recite it.
I would have given you more warning if I was going to. But as an employer, like it's important. When you get to the size you are, 80 odd people.
Yeah, we do.
You need something to go back.
I mean, to be honest, we've always had those set of values, or I have. In terms of treating people well and progressing people, but we did formalise that into an actual sort of constitution document a few years ago, and it's plastered all over the walls and toilets. And
how many years ago did you do it? Remember?
Yeah,
was it pandemic related? Did you bring it in around that kind of time?
No, I think it was just before that. Actually, to be fair, I'd probably guess about 5 years.
Right.
Yeah. I'd probably guess about 5 years.
What a great thing to have for that lockdown period where everyone is in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, that was a challenge for any company, wasn't it? I mean, for us, we were, up until then, we were all 100% office-based. So to then all of a sudden overnight send everyone home was daunting, to be honest. I remember locking up the office on that night when we'd sent everyone home. It was a bit like, what's coming next, sort of thing. I'm sure every business was the same. But to be fair, that the staff did amazingly, and then we kept it going, and then and we actually grew through it. We even grew in 2020 and 2021, which was, we still kept providing a good service to our clients, and we still grew, which is testament to the staff, really. But yeah, I think that document that preceded that. I think it's...
Yeah. Well, it's very important to get there, and I don't know who will watch or listen to this, so I only wanted to kind of make sure they heard it, because we as a business have it. We review it every quarter. You and your strong business, you have one, and obviously it's there, as you say, it's constitution. It's in the office. It's for the people when they onboard. No doubt they hear about it when they're walking around. They see it, and it almost becomes part of the way they work.
And it's all about. I mean, the keywords in it. If you were to look through the keywords in it, it's about relationships, about service, it's about positivity, it's about inclusiveness, it's about helping, it's about are you adding value. It's all those sort of buzzwords, and eventually I think they become ingrained. Particularly if I can sort of cascade it down to the senior team, and they can cascade it down to the team leaders, and they can cascade it in, eventually it becomes ingrained, doesn't it? So although it sounds a bit fluffy business,
it always does at the beginning, but actually it means something to everyone.
I agree.
I think it does. We got our 5 kind of keywords as well, and they do, and you can look at your colleagues and you can believe in it, and the way you deal with your clients, you can believe in it, and that I think is quite important. And doing things like this, doing the things that you do in the community, it's that likability. People can kind of recognise you. They know you're not just in it just to make money from an insurance business. You're giving back physically to 27 teams, making that happen. A football club that wouldn't be where it is today without you. So hats off to you, and a lot of people can learn a lot from you. So we had a question up on the whiteboard which you spotted when you walked in here, and you didn't want it to be asked, but let's ask it anyway.
Oh, thanks.
So, right, you've got 46 years now of life experience. What kind of line would you give to your younger self? Is there anything you could tell your younger self from everything you've gone through? Like, is there anything you can kind of pass back to a younger Simon Lancaster?
I always find these things sound a bit cheesy, to be honest with you, but we'll roll with it. Please. We'll roll with it. Just
might be in the outtakes. We might
edit it out. But I think there are a few things, really. I think, and to be fair, I'll give you credit for this one. You said that somebody once told you need to work your way up from the bottom up, and I think that is true. I think another similarity, our first jobs were both pot washing, which I did at the Hadley Bowling Green. I don't know where yours was. And then I was sort of an office junior, and you sort of work your way up from the bottom. I think that's important. I don't think you can get parachuted straight into the top. I do think you have to work through. And
you were an apprentice. You told us you were an apprentice in insurance first.
Yes.
And I was a junior negotiating in the state agency branch. Like it very much is. You just got to do everyone's jobs with them or for them first. You were doing the post. I was doing the viewing feedback and that kind of stuff.
But I'll give you credit for that. I'll give you credit for that one, mate, because you said that one. But I think there's other things like treat people well. I mean, that sounds really simple and really corny, but I've always believed that if you treat someone well, they'll treat you well back. If you treat them badly, they'll treat you badly back. And so I've always tried to treat people well, and then and 9 times out of 10 they'll treat you well back. Not everybody, but I think that's a pretty good ethos to go by. And it's not about being liked, but it's just about having mutually beneficial relationships. You don't want to be out sort of like taking advantage of people or sort of gaining what you can out of relationships. No. It's very much about mutually beneficial relationships, and it doesn't matter whether that's a client, a supplier, something to do with a football club. I think you've got to want the person you're dealing with to get value out of the relationship as well, not just you.
Yeah.
Because I think if you're just looking out for you, I don't think it's sustainable.
No.
I think I'm very big in treating people the way you wish to be treated, and all the phrases, to speak to the cleaner the same way you'd speak to the CEO and all that sort of stuff. But it's true, isn't it?
It is true.
It's literally, that's how I try and behave, basically. And I think 9 times out of 10, maybe even more, it comes back.
Yep. Well, I've never heard a bad word said about you behind your back, which is a positive. So that, and you own a football club, so a lot of people could go after you, but you've got a lot of support. I think actually generally in life that's pretty true. But I think with football, we're all quite fickle in football. So whilst it's going well, everyone will be pleased. But I'm sure if it's not going so well, there'll be a few. Don't need to talk about those. Right. So this is Just Local, the podcast, and you've lived in Worcester all your life, Fernal Heath, where you grew up. What do you like about the place? What would you say we've got in our favour? It doesn't have to be Fernal Heath specific. Could be Worcester. Could be Worcestershire. What do you think is one of the reasons that people should buy, sell, stay?
Again, I'd say this would not, but I love Worcester. You know, I grew up in Fernal Heath. Now I'm in sort of Northwick, Beverley. I've been since Sarah and I got married. And, you know, our kids are all grown up in Worcester. And I just think it's got best of both worlds, and that it's a city that's big enough to have everything you need. You know, there's bars and restaurants if you want that. There's the shops. There's the, you know, everything you'd need really from a big city. But it still feels like it's got a community feel. You know, like if you, I mean, I love London. I think London's the best city in the world, by the way. But I don't think you'd feel a community inclusion if you lived in London, would you? Everyone's a stranger. But it feels like, you know, in Worcester, you walk down the street, you know everyone you pass, sort of thing. So I think it's got the best of both worlds. It's big enough to deliver, but smaller to feel like a community, and for the kids to be relatively safe, and you know, to not have to worry about some of the things you have to worry about in bigger cities, but to have the provisions that you wouldn't get in smaller towns and villages. So I think, yeah, geographically, you know, going back to business, it actually helped me again, through no credit of my own, just through accident, being centrally. Yeah. You know, I could be up in Manchester in a couple of hours or down in London in a couple of hours, and it really helped me from a business point of view. I often thought, God, if I was stuck down in Penzance or somewhere, how would I have serviced the country? But actually, geographically, you know, it worked quite well. Yeah. I think it's got a lot going for it. You know, I'd like to travel. We do travel a lot, but there's nowhere else I'd live. To be fair.
No, completely agree. Well, Simon, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you for coming upstairs to the studio. And,
I've enjoyed it.
Thanks
for going easy on me.
Wait till next
some tougher questions next time. But no, I've enjoyed it. Thanks.
Brilliant. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.